3 people that I know did die in Afghanistan. One person that I knew in Iraq, he had life-changing injuries. We've done more than enough to be allies, and let's see if JD will say thanks for that.
The way how everyone was treating Zelensky and Ukraine in general, it was just disgusting. They were building up to make an impression that Zelensky is not respectful enough. It pissed me off so badly.
I'm very happy to pay more tax to improve our defence.
I think that it would be quite important for not just British but European soldiers to be there. While I myself am a conscientious objector, I would be, if it came down to it, I would be willing to go if it was needed.
Can I ask you about Keir Starmer's plan to put peacekeeping troops in Ukraine? Why should British troops be in Ukraine?
Do you want to go first? Sure. I think that it would be quite important for not just British but European soldiers to be there, to be able to make sure that there is not yet just another incursion. Putin has broke, I believe it was over 10 peace deals before, I believe it might be over 20, before he did his full-scale invasion. There is no peace deal that does not have long-term security benefits.
There can be no peace without foreign presence, whether that be British troops, French troops, NATO troops in Ukraine. This man cannot be trusted, and there needs to be some security for Ukraine after the war has ended.
Any peace has to be ultimately enforced. Putin can't be trusted to keep his word, and all of Europe should be taking part, and that includes us.
If Ukraine were in NATO, would you sign up to go?
While I myself am a conscientious objector, I would be, if it came down to it, I would be willing to go if it was needed.
I mean, obviously one doesn't want that to happen. I think everyone should try to prevent getting into that position. And this is why I'm not entirely sure that Ukraine being in NATO at the minute is entirely the best idea.
I'm not exactly sure I'd be physically fit enough to serve, but I'd be happy to help out in whatever way I could, even if it's just a support capacity.
NATO membership is important for Ukraine. Ukraine should have been a member of NATO a long time ago. And in fact, it's not so much that that Ukraine should join NATO. It's more that NATO should join Ukraine. Yeah, Ukraine is defending all of our democratic countries, our freedoms, our liberties. We owe them a great deal, and we should be supporting them at every turn.
Would you sign up as a British
yes,
troop?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Why is that?
Right. Because what we are facing now is effectively the beginnings of what we saw in the 1930s, a fascist totalitarian who wants to dominate as much of the world as he can, and that must be prevented.
Well, Article 5 is a treaty obligation, and we have to honour our treaty obligations. That's why we make treaties. But secondly, it's the defence of Europe. Like I said before, if there's no peace in Europe, there's no peace in Britain.
Keir Starmer has talked about increasing the defence budget.
Yep.
Right now he's taking that money out of foreign aid,
Yep.
but to meet goals at a later stage, would you support an increase in taxation?
Yes, absolutely. The most important job of any government is security and to protect the nation, and that means expenditure on defence. And what's happened over the last several decades is that we've spent less and less on defence and left ourselves vulnerable as a result, and we must put that right.
Even if that comes through taxation or cuts to domestic
absolutely.
budgets?
I'm very happy to pay more tax to improve our defence.
I'm not a pacifist. I don't like war, but the most important thing is the self-determination of the Ukrainian people, and Russia is trying to kill them. There's no, two ways about it, and they need to defend themselves. So no, I'm not happy about the spending increase, but that spending increase comes from the Kremlin. Keir Starmer has to find the money for the Ukrainians because they need it, and that's.
Well, we decided when Russia invaded Ukraine, we decided that one of the things we could do that was useful was to host somebody from the Ukraine.
Why are you guys here today?
To take part in the demonstration, basically, because we're absolutely disgusted with, well, obviously Putin, but also Trump of recent days.
Can I ask, what did you both make of the scene that we saw in the White House between JD Vance, Zelensky and President Trump?
It was an awful example of journalism, it was an awful example of politics, it was an awful example of any human relationship you might think of. And the questions, the way how everyone was treating Zelensky and Ukraine in general, it was just disgusting. And how they were trying to make Zelensky and Ukraine look like we are somehow disgraceful or disrespectful or not grateful enough, and the questions they were like building up to make an impression that Zelensky is not respectful enough. Like when they were asking about Sud, it pissed me off so badly. I was literally so angry. Like it's the stupidest questions you may ask. As for journalists, it's about worst you can do.
JD Vance said
Yes, and he said that no one has served in the last 40 years, which I think was aimed at the UK and France because we thought we'd put troops forward to serve in Ukraine. I served in the first Gulf War. I served in Bosnia twice with UNPROFOR. I served in Iraq. I served in Afghanistan. I served in Cyprus. I served in a lot of places, and I've been fuming. 3 people that I know did die in Afghanistan.
Sorry.
And one person that I knew in Iraq, he had life-changing injuries. We've done more than enough to be allies, and let's see if JD will say thanks for that, soon as he wanted
Zelensky.
President Zelensky to say thank you.
Keir Starmer has got a plan to put British peacekeeping troops in Ukraine. Why should British soldiers be in Ukraine?
To defend Europe like we've done for hundreds of years. If there's no peace in Europe, there's no peace in Britain.
It's not just about peacekeeping in some countries where it's been like a two-sides thing. This isn't a two-sides thing. This is a fascist terrorist invader trying to destroy an entire country and eliminate it. So we must understand that this is not a neutral thing. We must defend Ukraine and support it.
I think we're in a very dangerous situation, and some hard decisions have got to be made, which are unpopular and wrong, but may be necessary in order to get peace. That's the most important thing, is to save more lives. To save more lives and to allow people to get back to living normal lives. And sadly, that probably means that some of Ukraine has to be given up, because I don't think there's any will on any of the main people to throw Russia out, which is what should happen, of course.
With Donald Trump signing an order asking the United States not to defend against Russian cyber attacks, he's asked them to draft a proposal to end Russian sanctions on Russia, sorry. With the suspension of the aid, the question is, if the American president wasn't a Russian asset, what would a Russian asset do differently? Because I don't know the answer to that question.